Oh my gosh, it's like a blizzard outside.
Oh.
It's kind of really beautiful. I don't mind it. Okay, so this always happens. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Wayward Sisters podcast. We are your hosts, Kat.
And Dom. And that's
Dom's,
Archer in the background.
And Dom's dog, Archer. This week, we're going to talk about how trauma and beliefs manifest in the physical body. Light stuff, light fluffy stuff for the holidays.
That's how we like it.
Light and fluffy, which is really hard and deep.
Hard and deep. I knew it. I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Hard and deep, like I like my sex. Oh!
You didn't even need to say that part. That was implied. The hard and deep. It's fine. We don't want to lose anybody. On that, everybody can follow along at least. So, what is your wank count at, darling?
My wank count is at, I think I'm up to 10 now.
That's awesome. You literally just leveled up.
Da, 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 da.
Bing! Oh
my gosh. We are going to go hard and fast and deep into this topic. And I say fast because I have a date.
You have a date?
In about an hour and a half.
Yeah, so we got to crank this out. Usually we end up talking for like 3 hours, and then we only give you guys about an hour of it. We're like, we can edit this out.
We give it to you for about an hour.
That's not bad. At least we're not two pump chumps, right? We finesse it a little bit. Do some foreplay. I am in a mood.
I am obviously also in a mood.
It is snowing super hard up here. It's super pretty. I'm super grateful that I'm inside and there's heat. My wank count is 0, actually. I haven't been feeling it. I don't know where I'm at. I got a new phone, and so my period tracker app reset, and I lost all of my data.
Oh, no.
So I have no idea what's happening on in my inner worlds of hormones and wombs and monsters and deities. So I've not super been feeling it. I haven't been feeling very well. We will get into why in this episode most likely, but yeah, it's 0. And again, like, I have sex like 3 times a day. I don't really need to. I'm doing all right. I could go 3 or more times a day, I think, but just with scheduling and such, we usually only have time for 1 to 2 sessions when we see each other. And I feel bad, kind of, but not really, because he's so tired all the time, but then I just make him more tired. It's a good tired. It's not like you're making him mow the lawn when he gets home from work.
Yeah.
So your date is with your boy, yeah?
Yes, with my current intimate partner. So we normally, because of our schedules and how late he works every day, we normally don't get the time to venture out into the world. And so as it happened today, he has a fairly light schedule and it's my day off from the Muggle job. So we decided to try something different.
Yay! Because you guys started out kind of as a long distance relationship. It started that way. So
yeah,
it's not anything weird or seedy why you guys haven't gone out together. It's just the way that the relationship developed.
Yeah. And so our situation is kind of unique because we have more of a history with each other. So it's not like that just starting out type of vibe where you have to like abide by the rules of engagement and stuff. We kind of do things. I told him we have the luxury of making up the rules as we go to what works for us. Because,
I'm in a similar situation where we're rewriting everything because so far everything else is not great. So we're going to do it our way. We like it so far.
Yep. That's been a big theme for me in life change and stuff and making this big move and making a lot of changes and stuff. It's just doing things my way.
Yeah. I mean,
it's kind of a no-brainer. You're like, well, duh, but yet it's still a profound, like, oh my God, I'm going to do it my way. We're pretty conditioned and pretty domesticated by society to like,
Yeah.
when we're approaching 40, now we're like, oh, wait, it's my own life. What are you working on?
So one thing that I've been neglecting is reading for pleasure.
Oh.
And gosh, it's been months since I read a book, and when I did, it was just fluff, like full disclosure, and a lot of you know this who know me already, I love a good trashy romance. Give it to me.
You write them.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
Which I need to get back to that. That's on the list of things to reconnect with, is my writing. But
2019 was the cocoon year, so now we get
big
back
time.
Like my magical practice is like non-existent this year, and getting back to self, 2020
time. And so I actually started reading for pleasure the other night, and I actually sent you a picture from one of the pieces of art. It's the Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered, the autobiography written by Karen Kilgariff and Georgia Hardstark, the hosts of My Favorite Murder. Mm-hmm. So I just started reading that, and I was already laughing out loud with the introductions and stuff. So I'm really excited to dig into that. And
it's such a great season for that too.
Yeah.
Cozy and wintry. What's the weather like out there in Long Island?
New York she's an interesting creature. It's I actually had my furnace repair guy come out to take a look at my furnace because the thing's like 13 years old, and I have my condo was built in 1974, so there are like a lot of little quirks about it. And but today I had made an appointment with him last week. He comes to look at the furnace and everything because it was pretty cold last week, but today it's almost 60 degrees. It's rainy, but it's still warm. So it's, 74 in here, and I don't need to have the heat on at all.
Well,
it's a nice change of pace for me. I'll be interested to see how I'm affected by the season. Because I usually get seasonal affect pretty badly, and so far I haven't felt it at all.
Well, it's early yet. Wow. Okay. So this week we wanted to talk about, Dom mentioned beliefs and the power of beliefs. And we've touched on that a little bit before with our gratitude episode and how that affects your life. And there's actually, if you guys are into the scientific part of things, I would recommend watching some of the stuff by Bruce Lipton. Did some cellular biology research on how what we believe kind of induces that growth or fear mindset, which affects, like, whatever you're believing either will help you grow or it stunts your growth because you're in that fight or flight mode. And then how those beliefs affect your body on a hormonal and cellular level, like certain things and certain modes that your body gets into, like the fight or flight mode, releases certain chemicals and hormones in your body that create a health and well-being reality, as well as the woo-woo stuff where you're vibrating on that track and you're bringing stuff into your life based on what you're vibrating. Your beliefs are what causes those vibrations. So
I thought, well, then we talked about beliefs and the power of belief, but then we talked about maybe going over how trauma can manifest in the body.
When we're talking about beliefs, we know that it manifests. We, as in Dom and I'm not trying to shove
we're not assuming everybody's on that track.
We believe that your beliefs have a shit ton to do with what you're attracting into your life. And they're not necessarily conscious beliefs either. There can be things that were implemented and put into your programming when you were young and in that theta stage between birth and 7 years old. You're essentially in a hypnotic state. You're essentially mostly subconscious. And that's how you learn and pick up all of the things that you need to know. And a lot of stuff that you don't need to know that affects how you operate in good and bad ways. So then what happens when you experience a trauma? And in those ways, how does that manifest in the body? How does that manifest in your life? And so when we experience traumas, like, I'm trying to think of one that's not all super triggery, but trauma is. So something like sexual abuse, those implement and those implant a lot of subconscious and conscious beliefs about yourself and your body, how the world works, how people interact with each other, what's safe and what's not. It gives you hardwires you to operate in a specific programming that isn't natural. It's not how we're supposed to be, but it kind of force feeds your little human computer that processes information to process it in a very specific light. I was reading this book. I'm sorry I don't have it on me to know the author. It's called Childhood Disrupted. And it is a female author, but it's essentially about how if you've experienced, and they don't even have to be super traumatic. It doesn't even have to be like super crazy. It could just be like a parent that's emotionally unavailable or one that's super critical or whatever, actually puts your body into a kind of that fight or flight stage. But because it happened in your childhood, and this is even, they're talking even before age of 18.
The author is Donna Jackson Nakazawa.
You're right. Thank you for checking. Thank you for looking into that. It's actually a really good book. I've not finished that one yet, but the stuff that I have read, I was like, oh, holy shit. Anyways, so it's talking about things that happen to you even pre-18. So not even up to that theta stage of 7, but all the way up until 18. And these things that happen to you that cause you to kind of operate in that always worried state. Like, especially if you have a parent that has their own mental health issues, if they're bipolar or they're just emotionally distant. And so you kind of always have to do or super angry, like a parent with an anger issue where you're always on eggshells and you're always like, okay. And so that goes into your adulthood where you're always worried about upsetting people. You're always watching people's facial expressions and their energy and what their posture is saying. And if they're upset or they're getting upset. And so do you back off and you get smaller so that you don't incur their wrath. That's actually accurate for me as well. And so there's these, right?
To a degree,
yeah. So you have this low drip of this cortisol, this hormone in your body that causes you to have a low baseline of inflammation always. It's inflammatory forever. And so there are ways, again, I haven't finished the book to figure out how to like turn that off and to fix it and reverse those effects. But they did these studies with these people where when they've experienced traumatic things before the age of 18, again, not even super traumatic, like you don't even have to have lost a limb to qualify for having a fucked up childhood. So these things, like the smallest thing can turn this on in this low drip. And so they're following these people, these case studies where these people are now in their 30s, late 30s, early 40s, their 50s, they have heart disease, they have cancer, they have all of these other things that are caused by this low drip of inflammation. Their body has been inflamed for 30 years. And it's causing disease now. And of course, sure, there are other extenuating circumstances that cause these things, but fucking, yeah, it's been shown that this, oh my God, science words, just read the book. I'm not a scientist and I'm not a teacher. I'm trying my best to relay what I read, but essentially the gist of it is those types of things cause a reaction in your human, physical, scientific body that cause shit to happen later on. That's my scientific version of it. I can't even say scientific. And then more coffee. Yeah. And then that's not even the super traumatic stuff. That can be anything. And so holding on to that stuff is especially, and blaming, like, oh man, there's so much personal work to do in this area. Like, but what I've found, like I've done a lot of work. I've done a lot of work on myself, and a lot of any emotional or mental issue that I could find, I would work on it until it's not an issue. Like I didn't even like mushrooms. And I was like, well, that's no good. And so I like made myself like mushrooms, and now I actually enjoy them. Like I'm like, I don't want to have any hangups. I want to be well-rounded. And for some reason that included mushrooms. I don't know. And so I felt like I did all of my work. I felt like I dug into all of those parts of myself and found the hangups and the traumas and the stuff like that. But what I was finding recently is, as I've mentioned in past episodes, have been my whole life very disconnected from my physical body. And so while mentally and emotionally and spiritually I've forgiven these people and I've moved on and I have a really good relationship with my mother, and I actually like quote unquote pray. I don't really pray anymore, but like I pray and wish good things and healing and happiness for people that did traumatic things to me, because I mean, they were fucked up too, and that's why that happened. But physically, because of my disconnection from my physical body, my body was never able to move on from that. Like, it was never able to process that trauma. I just physically pretended like it never happened. And I buried it, and I buried it, and I buried it. And now I have cancer. And it's in my, like, I have a history of sexual abuse. I was groomed at 15 by a 38-year-old business owner that I worked for. And that's how I lost my virginity, or how it was taken, I guess. I didn't lose it. I know where it went. And that abuse went on for 2 years. And because I was groomed, like, I was made to believe that that was a normal relationship and that he loved me, even though it was really, I'm like, this seems really strange. So that went on for quite a few years. And it led me to be fairly promiscuous, because I'm like, well, that's gone. So what's the point in, like, what am I actually saving? Which led me to get pregnant early and in an abusive first marriage. So I have a lot of issues with my womb space being traumatized, essentially. And a friend of mine, I was actually talking about my relationship with my son, that I don't regret anything in my life aside from how I raised my kid. My kid always interprets that as, I don't like how he turned out. I'm like, no, dude, you're just sad. Like, well, that sounds worse. Like, he is sad. He's depressed, and has a low self-image and stuff like that. And as a mom, you want them to be happy and you want them to feel loved and stuff like that. And I was struggling with my own shit through his childhood, because I got pregnant at 16. And so I didn't know who the fuck I was. I didn't know what I was doing. I did my best. I did my best with him. Everything I did with him was the best that I knew at the time. And of course, being almost 40, I know a fuck of a lot better. And I was like, fuck, I wish I would have just done this. I wish I would have just been more cuddly or more whatever. I don't know. So the only place that I have any regret in my life is that I wish my son felt loved. I wish he felt as loved as he is. And because of the shit that I was dealing with, it wasn't relayed properly, or it wasn't relayed strongly enough, whatever. And so I was talking to my friend about this, and he was saying, he's like, I feel like a lot of what you're dealing with, because I have cervical cancer, and like, I was attributing it to, like, okay, so my body hasn't been able to heal from this, like, because I've been disconnected. I haven't allowed her to release it. I haven't allowed her to forgive or to mourn or to rage or whatever she has needed to do. I haven't allowed it because I've been disconnected. I'm like, oh, nope, I'm fine mentally and emotionally. I'm carrying on and I'm great and I've dealt with my shit. I've just buried it. I've planted that seed in my most sacred creative space. As women, we carry and we hold and we bury a lot of our emotion and a lot of our trauma in our womb. That is our creative space. That is our center.
I love you.
I love you too. And so,
Deep breaths. Yeah.
So,
see, that helped.
So part of it is the sexual trauma that was never released physically. The other part is my regret and my resentment towards myself as a mother for the offspring that did come from my womb, especially when I was that damaged. And so I'm doing a lot of physical seeking and physical, like, connecting with myself. That's why I'm reading that book about dance, and because I have to figure out how to physically release this. And I absolutely believe that there is a connection between your beliefs and your trauma and your mental state and your emotional state and how that manifests in the body, because it fucking does. Like, I went to a specialist, like, his whole job and career is like vagina cancer. Like, that's all he does is female genital tract cancer. And so he's like, do you smoke? I'm like, no. Do you drink? No. Have you ever had this disease? No. Have you ever had this? I'm like, I've not had anything. He's like, okay, but just humor me and tell me no on all of these anyway. And so we went through this big long list. He's like, do you have a history of this in your family? I'm like, no. And he's like, there's really, like, this is a very specific type of cancer that has reasons for producing, and there is nothing in your history that should cause this. There is no reason you should have this. So he's baffled. He's like, there's no reason scientifically, medically, that you should have this specific type of cancer. I'm like, well, bitch, I can tell you why I do.
Did you talk to him about that?
No, I generally don't get super woo-woo on modern doctors because they're just like, sure, okay. So I'm doing my work to release the emotional, mental, and spiritual side of things in the physical body. So one of the things that my body has asked for a couple times in the last few years is like a scream release, like screaming, not like at anybody, not screaming words, just like that guttural primal screaming and getting it out. And there was a ritual, like I'll get these little inbox things. I can't remember if I've mentioned this before. I'll get these little inboxes of like, hey, you've got mail. Like there's a ritual you can do. If you decide to do it, then you can open it and you'll get the download of what the ritual is and what it entails. And so I've gotten a ritual for a scream release, like a sexual magic scream release thing to release this trauma from my body. I haven't done it yet. I got that email months ago and I just haven't, like, I'm afraid, like, and I'm not scared of anything, but there's a part of me that I'm like, I'm not afraid. I'm just nervous and anxious about it.
What about it is making you nervous or anxious?
I think that a lot of it is that I've buried so much of it. And if I let it out, I don't know what it looks like anymore. I don't know what it's grown into other than a tumor, but
it's going to be like Lilith breaking out of her prison.
Yeah, which is exciting, but I'm also supposed to do it with a partner, and I'm worried about like punching him in the face because I feel like that's part of it.
He is the exact right partner.
I know, and I've told him about it, and he's like, yeah, let's do that. I'm like, I would rather not. Yeah, he did bring that up the other day. He's like, we still haven't done that. I'm like, eee. And so follow your intuition and listen to your body. And if you're like, my issue specifically is because I'm super, super spiritual and very disconnected from my body. On the flip side of that is people that are, you know, have a good relationship with their body, but they're not super in tune with their emotions or their trauma or their beliefs. And so it pretty much presents the same issue. Like you're still going to unresolved trauma and these beliefs about your body or yourself are still going to manifest illness. Like you can ask your body as well if an illness that you have is a message. Like I broke some toes the other day. I opened the freezer and a giant ice pack fell on my toes. And I'm like,
ow.
So that type of thing, I'm like, okay, so is that a message for something that you couldn't have just like sent me a fucking bird on a bush or something? Rude. But, and sometimes they are. And I like, or you hurt your elbow doing a specific thing. Like, okay, is this a message? Not everything is. Sometimes shit just happens. But if you're in tune with your body and you're open to your body being, well, even if you're not open to your body being the messenger, they're still going to come through. So people that have chronic pain and chronic health issues, in my experience, they also have a less than sunny outlook.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's not always. Some people have physical ailments and they're like the brightest, sunshiniest person I've ever known. Things like, this always happens to me, or I always get sick in the winter. You will. You create that. You're vibrating on this little special track that you made for yourself. So every winter you get sick because you made it. So mote it be.
Mm-hmm. I actually, someone I know in my life said to me recently, well, I always get really sick. I get pneumonia every year at this time, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, that's going to change right now. And I'll tell you why. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. It was the boy. He said that he gets sick every year around this time. He gets pneumonia and, one really bad illness. And he's like, I'm about due. I'm like, no, no, no. No, no. We need to talk about this.
Yeah.
And so far, he has passed like that window of time when he normally would have gotten sick. And I'm like, okay, that's encouraging. Not that I attribute it to myself, but I will say that I've noticed an effect that I have on people as people close to me tend to remain healthier.
I'm your best friend and I have cancer, so fuck you.
But I'm gone. I don't know. I have to dig into that a little bit and figure out what that is with me and illness. I have a mindset, and it's obviously not perfect because when I first moved here, I got sick 2 months in a row. But interestingly enough, they were both throat related. So I wonder, is it just the stress of the move, or is there something, am I not speaking my truth? So there are other associations along with that, because I don't really get sick. I've been extremely healthy for a number of years, and I just don't get sick. And my phrase is, I am impervious to all illness. And I believe that.
Good. Well, and that's like, I have a meditation that I do when I start getting like the sniffles. If I'm going to get sick, I do a breathing meditation where I take in 3 deep breaths through my nose, and then I'm envisioning like golden sparkly energy going into my nose. And then like if it's a chest thing that's starting or sinuses, then I'll envision that golden healing energy filling up those areas. And then when I breathe out through my mouth. I don't know why. I do it that way. And I breathe out whatever color, like crud, like sometimes it's like mucusy green, sometimes it's like a scabby black and red and brown or whatever air to like get it out. And that has kept me from getting sick from colds, I'll specify. Kept me from getting a cold for like 4 years now. Unless I don't take it seriously and I'm just like, I'm going to do that. There. And like,
yeah, I was just going to say, you told me like in the last couple of months, you said, yeah, I kind of phoned it in and I got sick anyway.
Yeah.
So if you don't commit to it,
if you don't give it respect, if you're not truly committed and respectful of your ability to heal your body, and you just do that, you like phone it in or like, oh, I'll just do this real quick. And you're not like focusing your actual energy on it. I usually get more sick than I would have, like, than I generally do. Like if I get a cold, it's a fucking doozy because it's
the
like,
universe is like, well,
I don't feel like she punishes, but it is like, I don't know. She's definitely a teacher. So, and so that like, I know that I can do that. I know that I have that. And so I'm like, I catch myself like, oh, you let yourself get a cold. I'm like, bitch, you got cancer. You need to like, you need to check yourself right now. And so I'm working on that. And part of the illness and the struggle that I'm having right now with it is that, and this goes along with beliefs as well. It's like, I've always been super spiritual. When I was 14, I had a feeling that I would be a significant person. And I'm still working on that part. But I've also like had this weird feeling that I would die in my early 30s, and I made it to 37, so I'm excited about that. But if you're carrying this belief with you your whole life, that death is always looming, death is just waiting, and you're just kind of waiting to die, how would that not open a door for cancer? Right? And so there's a lot that I'm working on, filtering out those beliefs and stuff like that. But if you have ailments, especially chronic ones, especially ones that the doctors are like, yeah, this is kind of weird, you probably shouldn't actually have this. Check in with your body. There's ways that you can muscle test if you're comfortable with using a pendulum. It uses the same energy as muscle testing. If you're familiar with muscle testing, you have an electrical grid that kind of goes through your body, and you can, it short circuits. If you speak something as a truth, like I am this, and you say it as a truth, but subconsciously you don't believe it, and it's not a true subconscious belief. And we've learned that the subconscious beliefs are the ones that are actually creating your vibration for manifesting purposes, good and bad. Then it kind of short circuits that electrical system briefly. And so if you're using your arm, if someone is pushing down on your hand for you to see if it's strong or weak, it short circuits that system in your body and you'll get a weak response if it's not true. Pendulum uses the same type of energy. If you want to start using a pendulum, you can use a necklace that has like anything on the end of a necklace, and you hold the end of the chain or whatever. You do a series of questions that you know the actual answer to, like say, ask yourself I am wearing a gray shirt. It is true, and so it will give me a yes. I am wearing a pink fur coat. I'm clearly not. It's a no. It'll give me my no.
How, as a longtime pendulum person, how the pendulum will respond yes or no will vary depending on the person. So you also need to figure out what that is. And you can ask it by simply saying, show me yes and show me no. And usually, because for me, it's clockwise is yes, counterclockwise is no. But I know some people that if it swings forward and backward is yes, and if it swings side to side, it's no.
Yeah.
You also kind of got to figure out how you're going to communicate.
There's a bunch of different variations and combinations of your yes and no. So yes, like it is easier to just like show me a yes and show me a no. Sometimes it's odd, or you're like, show me a strong yes, because sometimes it'll just like wiggle, like show me a strong yes. And there's other ways that you can do it with your body. On the back of your head, there's like those two knots at the top of your neck and the bottom of your skull, and you can actually like feel them. And so like if I have a yes, it'll be like this, and if I have a no, it'll be like this. It's actually pretty cool. My chiropractor showed me that. I was like, what? I knew I liked you. You're fucking weird.
I have to try that.
So yeah, look up online ways to muscle test yourself. And then you can use those ways of muscle testing to be like, okay, I slept on my shoulder wrong. It is like super achy all up on my neck. Is this a message? Yes or no? Yes. Do I know this message consciously? Yes. I'm like, oh, it's to do with the fact that I haven't forgiven my brother and Christmas is coming, isn't it? Yes. Whatever. If you don't know it consciously, you can, okay, is the message in this room? A lot of times it's found in a book, and you just narrow it down. Is it, a book on the top shelf, second shelf? And it takes a while, and it's a discovery method, but it's a wonderful way to communicate with your body and give her a voice.
Yep.
Because she doesn't have one other than to make something wrong to draw your attention to it. And so if you're just ignoring it, or like, oh, this always happens, or like, oh my gosh, this is so annoying, she's trying to communicate with you. If you give her a voice in that way, a lot of times it releases the physical issue. The majority of the time it does, or it makes the physical issue more responsive to normal treatment. So like, I'm still treating my cancer, but I'm sure as fuck doing all that I can emotionally and mentally and physically to release whatever trauma caused this in the first place. So do those things. We have 10 minutes. I've talked this entire time.
It's okay.
But
it's going to happen sometimes.
I know. I had things to say.
But sometimes I'm going to have a lot more to say, just depending on the topic.
Yeah, but another cool thing that Dom and I can both talk about, but I'm bringing it up, so it'll most likely be me, is you remember how, like, when you and I first started, we had similar digestive issues when we first became friends, I mean. And, like, we didn't do well digesting red meat. There was some other issues where we were like really finicky digestively.
Yeah. And for different reasons, but yet we were talking about it and we would say, oh my God, me too. Oh my God, me too. That was like the first probably 3 years of us in our developing friendship. Like, oh my God, me too. We still have those only 2 moments.
You know what I miss? I miss going to Steak and Shake after a show.
Oh, I know. In full costume with our family.
Or even just us.
Or just us. I was just going to say that.
I miss our family, but I miss us for sure.
I know.
But
I miss our quality time and loading up all the crazy stuff on the luggage cart. But even in the later years when we started staying with people.
Oh, I love that. I love the dance community, and that is an experience. Anyway, so Dom and I are both personal growth junkies. And so even before we made the connection between beliefs and trauma or whatever manifesting in the body and causing physical symptoms, it was weird because we just keep growing and we keep learning and shifting and getting better as human beings. And like, we can down a steak, like, what's a good analogy for that? Like a lion or a bear?
Like, devour it like a ravenous badger.
That's exactly how it goes. So, and we have zero, like, I have far, far less digestive issues now. Far, far less. It's once in a great while I'll be like, oh. And it's usually when I throw a bunch of weird shit in my stomach, I'm like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, same. If I eat something that I know for sure, because I do legitimately have some food sensitivities. So like, I'm very sensitive to glutamate, so certain mushrooms I can't have. I do have a sensitivity to like lobster and shellfish. So I know those things are not gonna, I know, and I love eating those things. And it's a shame, but it's one of those where like, I'm gonna eat this anyway. I know I'm gonna feel bad, but it's okay. It's worth it.
Yeah, sometimes it is.
And it was weird because we actually did discover or figured out by having long conversations where I don't know, we were like, wait a minute, I haven't felt sick or had issues with this, and I don't know the last time, whenever that was. And then talking about different things, we finally came to the conclusion, oh my gosh, as we become more comfortable in our own skin, as we discover more of who we are and be more stand firm in our identity and personal growth, everything starts to function more efficiently and better and process in a healthy way. And
right. And so if essentially, like, in the same ways that you can request the message from the injury or the illness and then do your work to fix that belief, like say the belief is or it is like, oh, you need to forgive your brother for this or whatever, which was actually a legitimate message, is why I'm using it for an example. But that was years ago. We're fine. But because Dom and I were working on ourselves anyway, we just kind of inadvertently discovered what the message was and rectified it through our growth anyway, without knowing that there was a correlation. And now we're good. Now I don't have like super terrible PMS. I used to really bad, like years and years ago. It's not tied to the cancer or anything, but like, I used to have like super shitty moods, and I used to feel terrible and get migraines and stuff like that. And I also used to have an issue with being a woman in general. So as I've grown, a lot of my physical ailments have fallen away. So ask your body, she'll tell you. And if you have questions on how to change your beliefs, we can touch on those sometime as well. Or you can message me. But yeah, anything in closing? This is a shorter one so that Dom can go on her date.
So thank you for listening. We love you guys. We're so grateful for all of you as always. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions for discussion topics, you can hit us up on our Instagram at Wayward Sisters. Like and subscribe on YouTube at Wayward Sisters. Message us on Facebook, Wayward Sisters, FKA Roxanne Zendia, which is our former dance duo incarnation. Or you can email us at waywardsisters@gmail.com. We are also on the Twitter.
Oh, we are?
We are on the Twitter at Wayward Sisters.
Watch for our twats.
And you can find links to where all of our episodes go live on all of our platforms. Yes, platforms. Links to all of those platforms where our podcast is hosted on our website, waywardsisters.com. That is so eloquent. I'm so proud of myself. Oh my God.
I love you. It was perfect.
Leave a 5-star review and subscribe so you get notifications when new episodes are up, because who knows, we might not have them every week.
I know, we said that. We're like, we're not going to do this every week.
We said that, and
like,
then we keep doing it every week.
I know, like clockwork. Maybe that's all we needed to tell ourselves. Like, you don't have to, but we like to, and we're going to.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Okay. Have a wonderful weekend and enjoy your family. Oh, God. If you have an enjoyable family. If not, just avoid toxic people this holiday season.
Oh, my God, yes.
That's our loving message from Wayward Sisters. Fuck you, Aunt Brenda. Bye.
No, bye.